You have been given the most powerful battlefield in existence, your own mind. And yet, most people spend their lives enslaved by it. They wake up reacting, chasing, fearing, doubting, always pulled by desires and emotions they cannot control. But imagine for a moment what would happen if you were the one holding the reins. If you could silence the noise, direct your energy, and move with clarity no matter what storm surrounds you. This is the way to self-mastery. And let me be very clear. Self-mastery is not about controlling the world. It is about controlling yourself, because the one who has mastered himself cannot be defeated. When you are unshaken by failure, untouched by fear, and unmoved by distractions, then nothing outside can destroy your path. You wake up in the morning, and before you even open your eyes fully, your hand already reaches for the phone. Notification, messages, a flood of voices, opinions, images, pulling your mind in 100 directions before you have even taken your first conscious breath. And this is how most people live. They are not awake. They are simply moving through cycles, repeating the same actions, repeating the same emotions, repeating the same mistakes. Now, when I speak of awakening, I am not speaking about something mystical or far away. Awakening means becoming aware of what you are doing, aware of what you are thinking, aware of how you are spending your life. Because let me ask you, if you are not aware of your own thoughts, who is truly in control of you? If you are not conscious of your own actions, then are you living or are you being lived? The first step to self-mastery is the decision to wake up. It sounds simple, but it is not easy. Because waking up means you must face the truth that many of your actions are not chosen, they are conditioned. The truth that your emotions are not always serving you, they are often controlling you. And the truth that you have been giving your energy away to distraction, to impulses, to patterns that do not lead you where you want to go. When you awaken, you begin to see that the biggest prison is not built of walls or bars. It is built of habits and unconscious living. People can spend a lifetime trapped in this prison, never realizing the door has been open the whole time. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to sleeping through your own existence. Awakening is painful at first because you realize how much time has been lost, how much of your potential has been buried under layers of noise. But it is also liberating, because from that moment on, every choice becomes clear. You can either return to the comfort of sleep, or you can step into the discomfort of awareness, where growth truly begins. Think of it like standing at the edge of a river. For years you have been carried by the current, not even realizing you were drifting. But awakening is the moment you put your feet down, you feel the strength of the current, and you say to yourself, I will not drift any longer. I will walk with intention. That decision changes everything. It starts with small things. Instead of reaching for the phone the moment you wake, you take one deep breath and you notice it. Instead of reacting in anger when someone pushes your buttons, you pause for 1 second and you observe it. Instead of escaping discomfort by distracting yourself, you sit with it and you learn from it. Each moment of awareness is a brick laid on the path to self-mastery. But let me remind you, awareness is not passive. It is not about just noticing and doing nothing. True awareness gives you the power to choose differently. When you see clearly, you cannot lie to yourself anymore. You cannot pretend you are a victim of your life. You realize you are the one holding the pen, writing the story every day. And yes, that responsibility is heavy, but it is also the most empowering gift you can ever receive. Because once you awaken, you understand that nothing outside of you has the power to control you unless you give it permission. The noise of the world becomes background. The opinions of others lose their chains. You begin to walk with a calmness that others cannot understand, because you are no longer moved by unconscious impulses. You are guided by intention. Awakening does not mean you will never fall asleep again. There will be days when you slip back into old patterns, when you catch yourself drifting. But the difference now is you will notice it, you will catch yourself, and that awareness is already a victory. So I ask you, when will you choose to awaken? Not tomorrow, not when life becomes easier, not when everything is perfect, because that day will never come. The only moment you can awaken is now, right now, in this very breath. Let me tell you the truth. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another quote on Instagram or a video that pumps you up for 5 minutes. What you need is discipline. Because discipline, not motivation, is what changes your life. Discipline is what gets you out of bed when the alarm rings. Discipline is what makes you lace up your shoes when you don't feel like running. Discipline is what builds the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Now here, as the thing, discipline does feel good in the moment. You want always feel excited. Most of the time, you'll feel resistance. Your brain will give you every excuse. I am tired. I'll start tomorrow. Just 5 more minutes, 1 more episode. And if you're waiting to feel like it, you're already losing. Because feelings are temporary, but discipline builds something permanent. Think about this. Every single extraordinary life you admire is not built on bursts of motivation. It built on ordinary, boring, consistent habits that were repeated day after day. Nobody wakes up with 6-pack abs. Nobody stumbles into a successful business. Nobody becomes confident overnight. It's all discipline. Showing up when it is easier not to. Doing the work when nobody is watching. Keeping the promise you made to yourself long after the excitement has faded. And let me hit you with something most people don't want to hear. If you can control the small daily decisions, you will never control the big ones. You say you want to change your life, but you won't even change your morning routine. You say you want to master your future, but you keep hitting snooze. Let's be honest, you don't need a better plan. You need to stop breaking the promises you make to yourself, because that's what discipline really is. It's not punishment. It's self-respect. When you say, I will do this, and then you do it, you are proving to yourself that your word matters. Every act of discipline is like a vote. You are casting a vote for the person you want to become. And the more votes you cast, the more evidence you build that you are that person. Discipline rewires your identity. Now, I'm not telling you to overhaul your whole life overnight. That is why people fail. They go from 0 to 100, and of course they crash. No discipline begins small. You start with 1 push-up, not 100. You start with writing 1 paragraph, not a whole book. You start with drinking 1 glass of water, not reinventing your entire diet in 1 day. The magic is not in the size of the habit, as in the consistency. Because when you show up daily, no matter how small, you send a message to your brain. I keep my promises. I do what I say I'll do. And let me tell you that identity shift is more powerful than any external reward. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You become someone who follows through. Of course, there will be days when you fail. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. When you slip, you don't wait until Monday. You don't wait for a new month. You get back on track the very next decision. 1 skipped workout doesn't define you. 1 bad day doesn't erase your progress. What defines you is what you do next. So let me ask you, what is 1 small promise you can make to yourself today and actually keep? Not tomorrow, not when life feels easier, today. Because here, as the truth, you don't need to overhaul your entire life to change it. You just need to start keeping small promises, stacking them up day after day until discipline becomes your default. And when that happens, everything changes. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop relying on motivation. You start to trust yourself. And that trust, that unshakable confidence that you will show up for, no matter what, that is the real power of daily discipline. Let's be real. You live in a world that never shuts up. Your phone is buzzing. Notifications, emails, texts, pings. The news is screaming. The algorithm is shoving content in your face, and your mind is constantly racing. You think you're in control, but the truth is you are drowning in noise. And you know what's crazy? Most people are terrified of silence. They can stand being alone with their thoughts for more than 2 minutes. That's why the world keeps them distracted. It is easier to scroll than to actually sit with yourself. But here's the secret. If you want to master yourself, if you want clarity, focus, peace, you have to learn how to embrace silence. Stillness isn't a weakness. Stillness is strength. Because when you sit in silence, when you strip away the distractions, you are left face to face with the one thing most people are running from, themselves. You've got to ask yourself, why do I keep filling every empty second with noise? Because silence reveals the truth. Silence makes you notice the doubts you've been ignoring, the dreams you've been avoiding, the pain you've been suppressing. And yes, that is uncomfortable. But growth always starts in discomfort. The people who transform their lives aren't the ones who chase comfort. They're the ones who can sit in stillness and face their own reflection without running away. And let me tell you, this is about meditating for hours on a mountain. This is about taking 5 minutes to sit quietly without your phone. This is about turning off the TV and listening to your own breath. This is about creating space in your life where you are not consuming, you're just being, because in that space, clarity shows up. Ideas come through, answers you've been searching for finally get heard. Not because they weren't there, but because you were too loud to listen. Think about it like this. Your mind is like a glass of muddy water. Shake it around all day and it stays cloudy. But if you set it down, if you let it sit still, the dirt settles and the water becomes clear. That is what silence does for you. It lets the chaos settle so you can actually see. And when you can see clearly, you make better decisions. You stop reacting to life and you start directing it. Now I know what you are thinking. I don't have time for silence. My life is too busy. I can't just sit still. That is an excuse. You have time to scroll. You have time to binge watch shows. You have time to complain. You can find 5 minutes for stillness. And if you don't, then that is exactly why you need it. The busier you are, the more silence you require. Because stillness does waste time. It gives you time back. A focused, centered mind gets more done than a distracted one ever will. Let me give it to you straight. If you can't sit with yourself in silence, you don't know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, how can you ever master yourself? You can. You keep chasing distractions, chasing other people as approval, chasing whatever numbs the discomfort. But when you embrace stillness, you start to hear your own voice. You reconnect with what actually matters to you. You stop being pulled in 1,000 directions, and you start moving with purpose. And dawn, overcomplicated. Silence isn't about being perfect at meditation. It is about presence. It is about choosing not to fill every second with noise. It is about letting your mind breathe. If you can practice this even for a few minutes a day, I'll notice something shift. I'll feel calmer. You will think sharper. You will become less reactive. And over time, silence becomes your superpower in a world addicted to noise. So here, as the challenge, today, take 5 minutes. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you sitting in silence. And notice what comes up. It won't be easy. You all want to quit. But if you can push past that discomfort, you all realize something powerful. Silence isn't empty. Silence is full of answers. Let's talk about the enemy that nobody wants to face. It's not your boss. It's not your path. It's not the economy or your parents or your circumstances. The enemy is you. More specifically, it is the version of you that shows up with excuses, that procrastinate, that avoids hard things, that whispers, just do it tomorrow. That's your shadow self. And if you don't learn how to fight it, it will run your life. Every single day, you wake up with 2 choices. You can listen to the voice that says, stay comfortable, hit snooze, skip the workout, put it off, nobody will notice. Or you can listen to the voice that says, get up, do it now, show up for yourself, no excuses. That's the battle. And here is the hard truth: you're not going to win that fight once and be done. This isn't a war you win in a single day. It is a war you fight every day. Now, most people think strength is about muscles, about how much you can lift, how much you can endure physically. Wrong. Real strength is built in those small, invisible moments when nobody is watching. Real strength is saying no to the easy path and yes to the hard one. Real strength is catching yourself making excuses and refusing to give them power. Because every excuse you believe feeds the shadow, and every excuse you reject weakens it. Here is the thing about the shadow self: it knows your weaknesses. It knows exactly how to talk you into comfort. It sounds logical. It sounds convincing. You deserve a break. You've had a long day. One more scroll won't hurt. You will do better tomorrow. That is not truth. That is a trap. And every time you give in, you're letting the weaker version of yourself win. But when you push back, when you do the thing anyway, something amazing happens. You start to build proof. Proof that you are stronger than your excuses. Proof that you are not controlled by comfort. Proof that you can trust yourself. And that proof, over time, becomes confidence. The fight with the shadow self is not glamorous. Nobody applauds when you get out of bed at 5 a.m. Nobody cheers when you choose salad over fast food. Nobody sees you close the laptop and go work out instead of binge-watching shows. But those small choices, those battles won in silence, are exactly what transform your life. So how do you win against the shadow? You stop negotiating with it. The second you start debating, you've already lost. The moment you say, maybe I'll do it later, your shadow has its foot in the door. You don't think. You don't wait. You take action. 5-second window. Feel the resistance, then move anyway. That is how you win, not with feelings, with action. And let's be real, you will lose some battles. You'll have days when the shadow wins. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you are human. The only real failure is letting one bad day turn into a bad week, a bad month, a wasted year. The shadow wants momentum. Don't give it that power. Fail once, reset fast, fight again. The truth is, you are always fighting 2 versions of yourself. The one that wants to grow and the one that wants to stay the same. The one that wants discipline and the one that wants comfort. The one that wants progress and the one that wants excuses, which one wins? The one you feed. So ask yourself, which version are you feeding today? Are you feeding the shadow with procrastination, doubt, and laziness? Or are you feeding your stronger self with action, discipline, and courage? Because every decision is a vote. Every decision tips the scale. And over time, those tiny votes create a destiny. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up and fight over and over again. The shadow never goes away, but neither does your strength. And the more you practice choosing action over excuses, the easier it gets to win. The journey to self-mastery is not a single step, it is a lifelong practice. It begins with awakening, seeing your own patterns clearly, and continues through the power of daily discipline, learning to embrace silence and facing the shadow self head-on. It grows through struggle, through the willingness to sit with discomfort, and through the understanding that mastery is not about controlling the world, but about controlling yourself. When you learn to take ownership of your choices, when you stop waiting for motivation and instead rely on consistent action, you become unstoppable. Self-mastery is not about perfection, it is about persistence, awareness, and courage. It is about showing up for yourself every day, even when it is hard, even when nobody's watching. Because the truth is, the greatest victory you will ever experience is not over others, but over the weaker version of yourself. So take this message with you today. Everything you seek, clarity, strength, freedom, peace, already exists within you. But it will only reveal itself when you decide to rise above excuses, distractions, and fear. The path to self-mastery is the path to your true self. Walk it with intention, and you will discover power you never knew you had. Thank you for taking the time to listen and reflect. Your presence here means you are already on the journey. Stay consistent, keep choosing growth, and remember you are capable of far more than you believe. If this speech inspired you, don't forget to share it with someone who needs this message today. And thank you again for being part of this journey towards self-mastery.